Coming up on
in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Today, we'll focus on government employees, Build by USA, and we'll also talk about what to do if you're having problems at work. But first, let's bring in my colleague, Delane Adams, for the latest machinist news and labor news. And Delane, we're starting out with Miller's Corps.
Yes, this feels like deja vu. Good afternoon, Tanya. How are you? We definitely want to tip our cup to members at Local 2699, Miller's Corps in Albany, Georgia, just for all the good work that they're doing and bringing cheers to everybody, not only on Sundays, but throughout the week.
All right, great news from our Southern Territory. And we have some pictures here that we're putting up on the screen.
Yeah, great pictures. And again, they've been in Albany, Georgia, making it happen down south. And they also, during certain times of disaster, able to provide water to storm victims. So they do a lot of great work down there.
And we move on to our Oregon welders.
Yes. So United States Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon, he recently congratulated 100 members at Precision Cast Parts who voted to join the IAM. So definitely, Senator Merkley, we appreciate your support, and hopefully we can continue to do great things in Oregon, especially at Precision Cast Parts.
And that was the letter that he sent.
Yes, nice letter. So thank you, Senator Merkley, again.
And what's going on with the Senate Democrats?
So just this morning, the Senate Democrats released a proposal that would support workers' rights. And one of those included banning right to work all throughout the nation, which is good. And when they stand up for working people, that's something that we can get behind no matter what party you're affiliated with. So we'll see how it goes. But again, those are just proposals to look out for, something in the news. And then also they would like to make it easier for members to organize in the workplace and not have companies have such a heavy hand when it comes to organizing drives.
And we want to remind people that in right-to-work states, you make less than workers that are not in right-to-work states. So it may sound like a good thing, but it's not when it comes to your paycheck.
Yeah, right to work is wrong and definitely takes away workers' freedoms.
Okay, thanks so much, Delane.
Thank you, Tanya.
Appreciate you stopping by. It always keeps us up to date on what's going on. Well, now we're going to talk about the workers who keep our government running every day. It isn't always easy, and if you're a government worker, you can give yourself a shout out right now in the comments if you're watching us on Facebook. So let us know who you are, where you work, and that way we can kind of know where you're coming from. If you have any concerns and you're a federal employee or a government employee, let us know where you work, where you are, and who you are. Our first guest is the director of the IAM's Government Employees Department. Jim Price is joining us. Thanks for stopping by, Jim.
Well, thank you for having me.
Jim works right down the hallway from me, so I see him when he's not out on the road talking to government employees. But for people who don't really know a lot about the IAM, we have other union members who are watching us. Tell us, what does the Government Employees Department do?
Well, the Government Employees Department is made up of two pieces. First piece is the government employees. That would be like your Forest Service folks, General Services Administration, VA, Passport Services, those types of folks. And that falls under the NIFI-IM banner. And then you have a lot of the IM folks that fall under a banner that basically deals with DOD, such as like a lot of your Army bases, your naval bases, and things of that nature. Also, along with that, the other piece of that is actually metal trades. Mm-hmm. Metal trades handles a lot of the federal shipyards, and those are government employees as well. And then you have the other piece to the metal trades, which is Department of Energy, which is all of the bomb factories, Amarillo, CNS Pantex, and then also you have Sandia National Labs out in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
So these are a lot of different sectors that are included.
Absolutely.
Now, we've been hearing a lot of attacks on public unions lately, with the government aiming to downsize, smaller government. What effect does that have on public workers?
It has several effects. I think that you've probably, most folks, a lot of your listeners and the people that are here, they've heard Steve Bannon talk about the deconstruction of the administrative state or administration. What's happening right now here in D.C. is they're not hiring people to fill key positions in the federal sector that basically provide services to the communities. It's also affecting the federal employee in regards to security clearances. There's not people that are engaged at OPM maybe to clear people to take these jobs in the shipyards and places of that nature. They're actually attacking a lot of the things that basically federal employees use on a daily basis to represent our members, i.e. official time. It's a big thing because without official time, we can't actually represent the folks during the work hours. It's actually something that would have to be done after hours.
And this is not union time. This is official work to service.
Yes, and it's part of the process by which we've been representing members since 1964.
Now, remind people what's not included, because a lot of people may assume what's going on because it's no political fundraising.
No.
Tell us the other things that it does not include.
Well, you bring up a good point, and that's the Hatch Act. The Hatch Act basically does not allow for a federal employee to get involved in a political campaign on the job. A federal employee can do what they wish after work, but they can't, how do you put it, they can't be engaged in political activities on the job. So I can't go out and campaign for somebody there. As a whole,
what are the things that they are supposed to do with official time?
official time, they basically are supposed to go out and then basically they are to work with the agencies to help clear up issues such as if there's a pay issue, if there's jurisdictional issues, if there's a problem in regards to a contractual violation. Those things are okay to deal with under official time.
Okay. Now, before we leave, is there anything else you want to mention? Because I'm going to mention the conference that you just had. But
I guess what I'd mention is that, you know, again, I'd go back and say that federal employees make this country work. And when you say federal employees, people get the wrong impression. They think that federal employees are all in Washington, D.C.
Right.
That's not true. Maybe 25% of all federal employees are inside the Beltway, maybe less than that. The rest are out there in the community, at your VA hospital specifically, and that's one place that I guess that is very important to me because our veterans deserve better care than what they're getting. And these cuts in the budget actually impact the care that we're able to give to our veterans in the VA hospitals. Again, the government employees department is very diverse. We represent doctors and nurses, we represent shipyard workers, we represent firefighters, the guys and gals that are out there fighting those fires out in California, which, by the way, is very dangerous work. We represent them in the federal employee sector of the IM.
and you talk about dangerous work. That's one of the greatest things about union benefits.
Absolutely.
Is we're trying to make sure that we do have good job protections
Yes.
and good health benefits
Yes,
as well.
that's right.
Before you leave, you just had a conference, your federal first government employees conference.
The very first.
Tell us about that.
That was probably one of the neatest things that I guess that I've ever been involved in. I set it up with my assistant Terry Keneally and some help from Joe Greaser from the Southern Territory and a bunch of others from NIFI, Randy Irwin. We put together a conference that we thought was very interesting, and what happened was that it was a lot more interesting than we even thought.
How many people did you have?
I had about 200 folks there, and none of them left the building or left the room while we were there. I mean, they were like sponges. They were just sitting there the whole time. We had folks from the FLRA.
What does that stand for?
Federal Labor Relations Authority, which basically is the guiding group that handles all of the rules and regulations. It's kind of like the National Labor Relations Authority, only it's on the federal side. We had our past General Counsel, Allison, back there.
And you had Frank Corelli there.
Frank Corelli.
Tell us about Frank.
Frank is kind of a mentor. Frank basically was the previous director of the department. Frank got sick along the way, and basically he wasn't able to continue. However, we got him there. We presented him with his 45-year pin, and as well as a little token from the department to tell him how much we appreciated him. Everybody was glad to see him. He was very well received. Frank's a great guy. He's one of those people you just can't replace.
We give tours, and yes, they do ask to see you, but I remember when I first started at the end of 2011, people would ask, where's Frank's office?
Yeah.
So he's definitely had
He's
a big impact on this union.
He's an icon here. Yes, he is.
Well, thanks so much. If anybody wants more information, where should they contact?
If there are people out there that want more information, and if you are a federal employee and you're not represented, you can reach my office here at IM headquarters. The phone number is 301-967-4753, or you can reach us here via the
website.
Go IAM.
GoIAM.org.
Or you can write me a letter if you like the snail mail. That's 9000 Machinist Place, care of the Government Employees Department.
That's right, 9000 Machinist Place and
20772.
20772.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate
today.
it. I enjoy it.
We appreciate you. Well, Halloween was yesterday, and last night I did not even have one trick-or-treater. A group of about 10 kids looked at my house and couldn't tell if I was handing out candy or not, and I had just closed my door at about 8:30 or so. And one of the things I did, though, was to buy Union candy. Kit Kats, Hershey's, those are some of my favorites. Now, of course, there's more for me to eat, which could be good or bad, but I wanted to support fellow union members. So Build Buy USA aims to bring back well-paying and sustainable manufacturing jobs and educate the public about the power of the wallet to reward employees who respect workers' rights. So we want to tell you a little bit more about Build Buy USA. And to do that, we are actually going to bring in one of our first guests, Sandra Engel, who is joining us all the way. Oops, hang on. I hit my computer, so you were hearing my computer. But there's Sandra. Sandra, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Detroit, right?
Yes, thank you very much, Tanya. Thank you, Machinists, for inviting us, and I bring you greetings from the UAW and President Dennis Williams. Thank you.
Now, how did Build Buy USA come about? Because you mentioned the UAW.
Mm-hmm. So, as you know, our union, and I think your union and a number of other industrial unions, have always had a strong program involving the union label and talking to our members about the importance of buying the products that we build. But as time has gone on, as union density has taken a hit, it's become very clear that that message of looking for the union label just doesn't resonate with a lot of people in 2017. So what we did was we looked at the whole idea of this movement in our country called ethical consumerism. And that's the idea that people will think about the purchasing power of their wallets and support products and goods of companies that they believe in that match up with their ethical positions. And clearly, union members fall into the category of ethical shoppers because we buy union goods. And in order to have this conversation nationally with people about the importance of using our wallets to support companies that support communities and workers, we'll put together this campaign called Build Buy USA to sort of raise that profile of that issue and enlist other groups who are not necessarily aligned with labor. But if you, for example, only buy Made in USA shirts because you don't want to support sweatshops abroad, that's an ethical consumer. And though they might not be doing it because they're looking for the union label, it's certainly a group of people that we should be reaching out to and talking to and building alliances with. And so that's what we're trying to do with this movement.
Do you think that people realize the power of the purse or the power of the wallet?
I don't think people think about it enough. I think people are lulled into thinking about the best, the low prices and as much that they can buy. And they're thinking in terms of quantity and not sort of the quality of what they're buying or in terms of the hidden cost of something that appears to have such a low price. I mean, we know that some of the reasons why T-shirts can cost $4 or $5 at some of these big box stores is because they're being made by child laborers in Bangladesh that have no worker protections. There's no environmental protections. They're exploited, and that's why they're able to sustain that price. And the inequity of that is not only to the child, but the American worker who's expected to compete against that.
On your website, you talk about holding lawmakers accountable. How important is it that we all take part in doing that?
It's a huge piece of what we're doing because the other irony of starting sort of this kind of Made in America union-made campaign in 2017 is that we can talk all day long about only buying American-made goods and union-made goods, but if there's nothing made here, it's sort of an empty kind of rhetorical campaign. And so a huge part of what we talk about is also holding policymakers accountable to actually have a sound industrial policy, one that's forward-looking and about building the middle class in the next generation. I mean, unfortunately, we do have an industrial policy in this country, but it's backwards. It's an education policy driven by interests who want to undermine public sector unions, or it's an infrastructure policy driven by lobbyists who are trying to get the biggest concrete contracts for the people they represent. All of these things should be advanced with the purpose of building the next generation in the middle class. And until we start demanding, not just fighting on these little issues, but also demanding a bigger picture where all of these issues weave together to build the next generation, we're never going to be able to really take on this issue.
You also have some tips on your website about how to make a difference. Tell us a little bit about some of those.
So the tips we're getting are actually from the people who are practicing ethical consumerism every day. A lot of things, a lot of products, for example, are what's called double-breasted, meaning that there's a version of the product that's made here and a version of the product that's from another country. So it's identical. Elmer's glue is a good example of that. There's no reason that you can't go to your local grocery store and go up to the manager and ask that they stock the Made in USA Elmer's glue. No reason at all. And there's also no reason, if they are stocking the Made in USA Elmer's glue, that you can't go and thank the manager for doing that. A lot of us as consumers don't understand or appreciate that a lot of people only interact with store management if there's an issue or a problem. Very often, if you're encouraging them to keep doing the right thing, it will influence their thinking in terms of what they're going to order in stock.
Well, thank you so much. And I know that there's so many places to get more information because you have social media sites. You're on Facebook and Twitter as well, correct?
Correct, and Instagram. And then one last thing, coming up in a few short weeks, we're going to be launching a national song campaign, a national video contest to basically try to find the 2017 version of the 1974 song, Look for the Union Label. So follow us, follow our pages, follow our social media to get the latest on that. We're really excited about that, and we really think it's going to be an effective way to engage the next generation and a new group of people who don't always think about the union label.
I think it works because I'm one of those people that a tune sticks with me. So I remember that. I'm totally showing my age. You know, look for the union label.
Exactly.
So I'll be humming that all day now. But we're hoping that
well,
younger generations
now,
will
Tanya, enter that contest.
See? I may. But thank you so much, Sandra, for letting us know. And your website is buildbyusa.org.
Correct. And Build by USA on Facebook and Instagram.
Twitter and Instagram, you said?
Yep.
Thank you, Sandra. We appreciate it. And if you buy products in North America, if you buy in the USA, if you buy in Canada, if you're a Canadian resident, let us know in comments, because we want to recognize you for supporting workers that are in your area, especially when you buy local. So make a comment. I'm going to check comments really quick because we had people giving us shout outs. Gail Howard from 2296, I think it was. We had Jeremy Wise from Everett, Washington, local 751. Thanks for joining us. We also have, I saw somebody from Nephi IAM, local 1429. That was Scott Geyer. I think it's Melanie Lynn Irvin says go IAM. So we appreciate everybody from checking in and watching us. George Trapp from Local Lodge 1943, hello to you. We've got Leslie Castiello Raymond, Local 589 Boston, and Michael DiGitano, I think it is, Local 1484 California. Ramon Garcia, one of our loyal watchers down in the Southern Territory. So thank you all for joining us. We like to give you all shout outs. You can always comment on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. And now we are going to talk to another familiar face here at IAM headquarters. Rhonda Rogers is joining us, and her department is a pretty large one in terms of your title. So you're the director of, let me guess to see if I have it memorized, Director of Women's, Human Rights, Young Workers, and
Community Services.
Community Services.
Yes.
And one of the things in the news right now, and has always been controversial, but it comes up every every day for some people, but it may not make the news for a year or two unless it's a really big case, is sexual harassment.
Yes.
In the workplace. It could be bullying in the workplace, and they can be intertwined. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about if something's happening in the workplace that makes you feel uncomfortable, that may be, impairing your rights or your ability to work. What are some of the options that you have as a worker, and what are some of the steps that you can take?
Okay. Well, the first thing I want to say is nobody should have to go to work under circumstances where they're not comfortable doing their job. That's a safety situation. People just shouldn't have to do that. And it has been in the news, not only with women, but with men as well. And even in the workplace, these things happen with men and women both. So the first thing that I want to say is you didn't do anything. You didn't do anything wrong. So don't feel when you're talking about these things that you're at fault at all. So that's the first thing. The second thing is it's a good idea to either talk to your union steward, or if you have a human rights representative with the union, it's a good idea to talk to them. Before you do that, because these things are highly emotional things, and so before you do that, it's a good idea to sit down and try to get your timeline in order. Try to think about what happened. Was anybody there? When did it happen? And just kind of get those things in order, because when you talk to your union steward or your human rights representative, they're going to ask you those questions. And then once you've gotten through that part, which is the hardest part, then your steward can file a grievance. Most collective bargaining agreements have a provision in there against harassment. Some of them even have provisions against workplace bullying, which is a little bit different, but it still occurs and it shouldn't. So there's that. If they don't specifically have something that deals with a harassment or a civil rights violation, you can also look at these things under mutual respect clauses that typically every collective bargaining agreement has, or even a safety. You can use it as a safety situation. And if none of those are there, this is against the law. And even if it's not in your collective bargaining agreement, you can file a grievance for violation of a law. The company has a responsibility to make sure that these things don't happen. So that's basically.
So make sure you know who your union steward is, who your human rights,
right,
or your committeeman is, who your general chair is.
Yes.
Because there are some people that may have never been to a union meeting. We're hoping that you do go to your union meetings, but get to know the people that are there to help you.
Right, right. And there's one other thing I'd like to add. Typically, the company has a harassment and workplace violence policy. And every now and again, they pass those out. They have you sign that you've read that. Please read that policy. There's a lot in those policies that we typically don't realize are in there. And so I would highly recommend you read that policy, because you could be doing something that you don't realize is wrong, and it is.
That's right. And some people may be too afraid to speak up, but it's important to speak up.
It is.
It's hard.
It is.
It can be difficult.
That is such a difficult thing to do. And I just, please do it. Please realize this is not your fault. That's the biggest thing. It's not your fault. You did nothing wrong.
And you can prevent, hopefully, it from happening to somebody again.
Right.
The next day, the next year.
Exactly. If you look at this, I'm sure everybody's familiar with the Harvey Weinstein thing that just occurred. Somebody started that. They didn't all just come out all at once and make those accusations. One person said something, and then somebody else did, and then you have all of these people that this was happening to. So you could be that one person
that makes the report.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rhonda.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you stopping by. We gave her little notice about this, and she was kind enough to come up and give us some tips and just let us know what resources were out there, because we're here for the workers.
Yes,
We're working for the workers, and we
absolutely.
want to make sure that each member is protected.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Well, before we wrap up, we are going to check our calendar of events. And we've had a lot more people with comments. We're going to get to those again as well. But we want to let you know that we are about 2 weeks away from Guide Dogs of America's annual events that are November 16th to the 19th in Las Vegas. And this happens every year. You can take part in so many events to raise money for guide dogs. There's a sporting clay event, the Hogs for Dogs motorcycle ride, the charity golf tournament, and also the charity banquet. And all of the events raise funds for Guide Dogs of America. You can volunteer for Wreaths Across America. December 16th, this event is open to the public nationwide at national cemeteries near you. And I personally will be at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. So I hope a lot of people will join me there. But this is free. It's a popular event. Get there early so you can get deep into the cemetery. If you stay on the outskirts, it gets pretty crowded. And don't forget that you can apply for an IAM scholarship. You just fill out the application packet before February 23rd. The scholarship competition is open to machinist union members and children of members. And for more information on eligibility, you can visit our website, which is goiam.org, and just search for scholarship and let us know what you think. And also today, right now, while you're watching, you can hit and make a comment right now to let us know what you think about the topics that we've discussed today. And if you've liked what you've seen, we're hoping that you will please share it on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. And anyone who has missed this live show can watch it later. Next week, we're actually going to have a show that's going to focus on veterans, the men and women that we're so proud of for serving in the military and protecting us through war times and also through times of peace. I'm going to take one more peek at these comments and thank Diana Shepard from Tampa, Jerry Beals, also Andy Stevens, Matt Henry, Jeremy Wise, and Carlos Miguel Cintron. Thank you so much. We're hoping that you all share this video, and we'll see you next week at 3 p.m. Eastern on Activate Live.